I've lost entire evenings to the decision of what to watch on streaming services. Not to watching something, to deciding what to watch. I'll sit down at 8 p.m. with the full intention of relaxing. And the next time I look at a clock, it's 11, and I haven't pressed play on anything yet. I've just been scrolling, hovering over thumbnails like I'm defusing a bomb with my mouse cursor. Reading synopses for shows I'll never actually watch. Getting genuinely upset about plot summaries written by people I'll never meet about characters I'll never care about. Here's the thing. When I was a kid, there were like 12 channels. You turned on the TV, you looked at what was on, and you watched it. Not because it was good, just because it was there. There was no analysis, no comparison, no crushing sense that somewhere, at this exact moment, the perfect show for your specific emotional needs was being aired, and you were probably watching the wrong thing instead. Now I have access to literally thousands of hours of content, and somehow I've never been more paralyzed in my life. I'll open Netflix and think, okay, I'm gonna find something good. This should take 5 minutes. But then my brain immediately starts doing this thing where it calculates the time investment versus the potential reward. I see a show with 3 seasons and think not consciously, but somewhere in the deepest, most anxious part of my brain, that's 30 hours. 30 hours of my life. What if I hate it after season 1? What if I love it but season 3 ruins everything? What if I'm one of those people who likes it but not enough? What if I finish it and feel empty because nothing will ever be as good as that thing I just watched? So I move on. Next show. This one has 7 seasons. 7. Do you know how much of your actual, finite, irreplaceable time 7 seasons represents? That's not entertainment. That's a job. That's a commitment. That's basically a child. I would be bringing a 7-season child into my life, and I have uneven looked at its vaccination records yet. I scroll past it. Third option. This looks interesting. Won awards. Has that guy in a 2? No. The one who's in everything. The Netflix algorithm has calculated, based on the 47 shows I've watched and my viewing patterns at 2 a.m. on Thursdays, that this is the exact show I was born to watch. But then I read the description. It says it's about a man grappling with the moral complexities of, and my brain goes, no, I don't want to grapple. I want to be entertained. I want to laugh, or I want to be thrilled, but I do not want my Sunday night to become an essay assignment. I already have anxiety. I don't need a show that gives me more anxiety by making me think about things, so I don't click it. But I also don't move on. I hover. I read the description again, word by word, like it might change meaning if I just understand it correctly. I look at the thumbnail. I wonder if the first episode is slow. I check the runtime, 45 minutes. It's almost an hour. That's almost the length of an entire movie. What if I commit to an hour and hate it after 12 minutes? And here, the worst part, I start comparing it to other shows I could be watching instead. I open another tab in my mind and think about that show I watched 2 years ago that I really liked. What if I just re-watch that? At least I know it's good. At least the commitment is clear. But then I think, but I've already seen that, and I remember how it ends. There's no suspense. There's no surprise. I'll just be sitting there thinking about what happens next instead of being surprised by what happens next. So then I think maybe I should watch something I've partially seen but didn't finish. There are 3 of those. I get about 30 minutes into thinking about the logistics of this where was I in that show. Do I remember enough to jump back in? Should I restart it just to be safe? Before I realize, I've now spent 45 minutes on the meta question of whether I should re-watch something, rather than actually watching anything. This is where it gets weird. At some point, I stop trying to find something that sounds good and start trying to find something that sounds acceptable. Lower standards. Just something I won't actively hate. Something that's fine. Not great, just ... fine. I'll scroll through hundreds of titles looking for something that's fine, which is insane because fine is everywhere. Fine is the default. Fine is what you get when you close your eyes and point at the screen. But I can't just pick fine, because fine is the enemy. Fine is the waste of an evening. Fine is looking back on my life at 75 years old and thinking, I watched a lot of fine things, which sounds depressing. I want to have watched something great. I want my leisure time to have been spent intentionally on something that moved me or made me laugh so hard I had to pause it. Except every single show on Netflix claims to be that thing. Every single one. They've all got beautiful cinematography. They've all got groundbreaking narratives. They've all got Rotten Tomatoes scores in the high 90s, which I'm convinced is a rigged system anyway. How does everything have a 93%? That's statistically impossible unless everyone's lying or bots are doing the rating. And honestly, it could be either. So I'm scrolling, and I'm reading descriptions, and I'm scrolling past the things I know I'll click on eventually, the comfort watch. The show I've seen before. And I'm passing over the things that sound too risky, the experimental French drama that's 7 hours long. And I'm hovering over the mid-range options, the thing that looks pretty good, but I'm not sure about. And somewhere in this entire process, and I want you to understand, this happens every single time my brain just gives up. Not like in a calm way, in a panicked way. Like a computer that's trying to process too much data and just starts smoking. My eyes glaze over. I stop reading synopses. Suddenly, I'm scrolling through things I have absolutely zero interest in. Reality TV about baking competitions in countries I QA unlocate on a map. Documentaries about diseases I didn't know existed. Anime with 400 episodes where I understand that the plot doesn't start until season 3. And I keep scrolling, 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 just moving the cursor, hypnotized, with no actual destination. It's like my brain has surrendered and is now just moving through content for the sake of moving through it. It's a loop, a cycle. An Ouroboros of indecision eating its own tail while a clock ticks somewhere and my life passes by. And you know what the truly deranged part is? While I'm doing this, there's a voice in my head. Actually, there are several voices. They're arguing with each other. Voice 1 says, just pick something. Anything. You've spent 45 minutes on this. Just hit play. Voice 2 says, but what if there's something better you haven't seen yet? What if you scroll just one more time and find the perfect show? Voice 3 says, you've scrolled 200 times. The perfect show doesn't exist. You're torturing yourself. Voice 4 says, actually, have you considered just rewatching The Office? At least you know it's good. Voice 5 says, oh, here we go. The Office again. This is why you're like this. This is why you can't commit. You're afraid. And I'm sitting there, and these voices are having a full argument. And I'm just the body that contains them, watching this unfold. It's like I am hosting a democracy in my own skull, and everyone asks voting for something different. Here's what usually happens. I'll finally settle on something, not because I've decided it's the best choice, but because I've reached a psychological breaking point where the pain of continuing to search exceeds the pain of making a potentially wrong decision. I'll click on something, and I'll feel this weird mixture of relief and dread. Relief, because I've finally decided. Dread, because what if this is the wrong one? What if 5 minutes in, I realize I've made a mistake? So I'll watch 5 minutes of whatever I picked, okay? And I'll feel myself asking questions like, is this good? Am I enjoying this? Should I stop? Is this a waste of time? Instead of just, watching it. I'm not present, I'm evaluating. I'm comparing it to the platonic ideal of the show I should be watching instead. And this is the part that really gets Mile hit pause. I'll go get water. And while I'm getting water, my brain will suddenly go, oh wait, what about that other show? The one I saw the trailer for. That looked interesting. And instead of going back to what I was watching, I'll sit down with my water and open the streaming service again. And I'll search for that show, and I'll read about it, and I'll start the whole process over. By midnight, I will have opened 7 different shows. Started watching approximately 3 minutes of 4 of them. Thought seriously about watching 5 different ones that I never actually clicked on. Remembered 3 shows I used to want to watch but forgot about. And I will have watched exactly 0 complete episodes of anything. And I will go to bed thinking, I wasted that entire evening and I'm not even tired. I could have learned something, could have been productive. Instead, I exist in some kind of quantum state where I watched everything and nothing simultaneously. The worst part is knowing that tomorrow night I will do this again. Because here's what I've figured out. Maybe you've figured this out too. And maybe that's why we're both here, scrolling through infinite content. Paralyzed and exhausted, it's not actually about choosing the right show. It never was. It's about the anxiety of commitment. It's about the knowledge that the moment I press play, I'm choosing not to watch something else. I'm saying no to every other option in the world. I'm taking my finite time and I'm spending it on this one specific thing. And what if it's not the best use of that time? And that's the real angst. That's the real paralysis. Because we live in an age where infinite options are suddenly available to us, and our brains haven't evolved to handle that. We're still operating on monkey brains from a time when choosing between 2 things was difficult enough. Now we're supposed to choose between 5,000 things and also somehow feel satisfied with that choice. It's impossible. It's insane. And it's why I spend more time choosing what to watch than I spend actually watching things. So what do? I sit there. I scroll. I think. I read synopses. I calculate time investments. I worry about wasting time. Compare hypothetical shows in my head. And then, usually around 11:45 p.m., when my eyes are tired and my brain is fried and I've lost the will to analyze anything anymore, I'll think, you know what? Forget it. And I'll put on The Office. Because at least I know I like that. Tell me in the comments below that I'm not completely alone in this. Because if it's just me scrolling through life making these choices, then honestly, that's kind of depressing. But if you've done this too, if you've spent 2 hours choosing and 0 hours doing, if your house has betrayed you, your brain says one thing and your mouth does another, then hit the like button. 'Cause liking this video is basically saying, hey, I get it. I've been there. You're not insane. Well, we're probably all a little insane, but at least it's together. And please, I'm genuinely asking, here, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that misery loves company. And I've got plenty of misery to share. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you get notified every time I upload. And come back to watch me figure out how to be a functional human being, one catastrophe at a time. I'll be here, probably scrolling through something, definitely overthinking it.